In this video, I will be predicting / speculating the highest performing megas in Pokemon Legends ZA. The game is a week out and information is slow, so we're gonna do what any good Pokemon fan does before a new game comes out and make shit up. Since Legends ZA does not have the standard Pokemon battle system, the Mega Pokemon that would perform the best are unlikely to be the same as the ones that were the best in Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire and Ultra Sun Ultra Moon. I won't waste your time with too much background information on the Megas, but my thoughts are that the worst performing ones will stay the worst, and the best performing ones are probably also now the worst. The main factor is that in ZA, much like Legends Arceus, there are no abilities. Some Megas were entirely built around their abilities, so this is suboptimal for them. This means that some of the previous best Megas, Kangaskhan and Mawile, are not very impressive. Another unknown in the mix is that speed may not be as important as it is in the usual battle system. I suspect speed heavily affects move cooldowns, but I don't know if it affects anything outside of that. I'm told you can negate attacks with a well-timed protect, which could mean that speed is non-essential but a convenience. Some Megas are tuned to be mixed attackers with both physical and special attacks. Historically, these sets are less effective than Pokemon optimized for either physical or special, so if it sounds like I'm giving mixed sets a hard time, it's because I am. ZA may present a less hostile environment for mixed attackers, in which case those sets could actually excel. I used to have a whole script for the hows and whys for each Mega's rating, but it wound up an hour long and I vastly underestimated how long it takes to make this video. It was supposed to come out on the 8th. Ain't nobody got time for an hour-long informational video heavily featuring speculation, so this is the short version. Venusaur. Losing thick fat is not great for Venusaur, but it's overall unlikely to make or break its performance. It places lower than it has in the past, but not by much. Charizard. Starting with X, the loss of Tough Claws is not the worst thing that could have happened, and Fire Dragon is a pretty nice type combination. Fire is an excellent offensive type, and Dragon is good against other dragons, but neutral to most everything that resists fire. Why losing Drought hurts a bit more, as you lose weather control, extra fire damage, and easy-bake solar beams, but it's not a death sentence. Fire Flying is, however, a much worse typing than its X counterpart. Blastoise. Without Mega Launcher, Blastoise can just use regular moves now instead of only things that have pulse in the name. Blastoise is likely to stay pretty middling overall, but no longer instantly loses to Charizard Y, so that's something. Alakazam. Trace was a spin-to-win kind of ability, very gimmicky and difficult to use super well, so Alakazam comes out mostly unscathed in the grand scheme. Hits hard and fast, but it do be made out of paper. Because of the large amount of new poison and fighting types running around, Alakazam may actually scoot up a notch. Gengar. Poor, sweet Gengar, they really love taking away good abilities from you. Losing Shadow Tag is not as bad as losing Levitate was, but it definitely takes away some of the fear factor Gengar carried. It still hits hard and fast, and it's unlikely to be bad, but it's probably just kind of good now. Kangaskhan. Murdered, slaughtered, irrecoverable. Parental Bond was the entire reason the dynamic duo was used, and without it, there is no reason to choose Kangaskhan over anything that is not named Audino. Pinsir. Airlate was incredibly important to Pinsir. Without it, you'd lose just about everything the flying type gained you. It'll probably be keeping Kangaskhan company in the pits of the low tiers. Gyarados. Mold Breaker is no huge loss since all abilities are gone, and that's what Mold Breaker did. It's practically not a loss at all. Gyarados was a solid choice before, and it remains a solid choice now, really only benefiting from the removal of abilities, its lower speed being the only weak point it really has. Aerodactyl. Aerodactyl didn't really like Tough Claws all that much anyway, but it does still hurt. Depending on how important speed is in the new battle system, Aerodactyl could do better than previous games, or a lot worse. Mewtwo. Neither Mewtwo is terribly upset by the loss of their abilities since Sleep doesn't even exist in ZA. Who knows if either will be usable, let alone obtainable. X is just a better Medicham and Gallade, and Y is a better Alakazam. With stats to rival God, and more importantly Mega Rayquaza, Mewtwo will never be a bad choice. Ampharos. Not quite the threat that Gyarados boasts, it's also lost to nothing via Mold Breaker. Good electric megas don't really exist, so Ampharos is kind of that guy as far as the electric type is concerned. 4 weaknesses is nothing to sneeze at, it's perfectly usable, but you have a low speed and one has to wonder if you will get trapped in cooldown hell. Scizor. Technician is not as devastating a loss as one would think, with strong bug moves actually existing these days. It does mean that the omnipresent Bullet Punch may not remain omnipresent. Bug and Steel is a fantastic defensive typing that only fears fire, and being super effective against Fairy is a measurable advantage. Heracross. Your gimmick is dead and that's very sad, but you're actually still alright. Awful defensive typing, but pretty decent offensively. If speed does not matter much, you stay soundly in the middle of the pack. You hit exceptionally hard against a lot of things that really don't want to be hit that hard. Lots of megas are kind of on the frailer side. Houndoom. Well, you don't benefit much, but you also lost very little. Houndoom will stand out as a hard-hitting paper bag, but if you hit hard enough, paper bagism doesn't matter. Another mega patiently waiting to see how much speed matters in the new system. Tyranitar. You really needed that sand stream. I have faith you can do well, but it's not nearly as well as others would be doing this game. Welcome to the middle of the pack. This is life without the extra special defense from sand. Blaziken. From Ubers to just alright. How the mighty have fallen. I suspect Blaziken will be outclassed by a certain other firefighting mega without its precious ability. Gardevoir. Well, you lost Giga Gleam without Pixelate Hyper Voice, but you're still a mega worth having around. Moonblast keeps you relevant in fairy damage, and Psychic will possibly keep all the poisons that want to eat you at bay. You're gonna see a lot of these, not because of the obvious reasons, but because of the free Pokemon Company mandated Gardevoir wipe that every player is being given for playing the game before 2026. This fact alone makes Ghost, Steals, and Poisons more viable in the early ZA metagame. Mawile. You okay, buddy? It's okay, ZA's just not your game. You'll be relevant again in Champions, I promise. The loss of huge power means that Mawile is joining the bottom tiers. Mawile will stand out as the best of the worst thanks to a fantastic typing of Steel Fairy, which honestly could let it even stand in the middle tier rather than the bottom. It has a good move pool and usable stats. It's never going to be the worst choice, but it's definitely not the best one in ZA. It may not even be a good one. Aggron, the Wall Incarnate. Losing Filter is not good for Aggron, but with a 230 base defense stat, the wall still stands. Steel is certainly one of the best types you could have, and Aggron is no slouch in the offense department, but we'll have to see just how strong defense is in the new battle system to know if Aggron makes a name for itself in ZA. I really hope it does. Medicham. To the depths with ye. You suffer the same fate as Mawile, but with far fewer redeeming qualities. That's kind of it, you just kind of suck. Manectric. You weren't good before, and you haven't gotten any better. Sorry. Bennett fell into a category of an offensive support mega thanks to Prankster, and now Prankster doesn't exist, so you're just kind of a subpar offensive. It's pretty cool, but I can't see it performing particularly well. Absol. Magic Bounce was always an odd ability to give to a mega in my opinion, but it does mean that Absol is offensively unaffected by the loss of abilities. It's no longer immune to non-damaging attacks, which is not great, and it struggled before as a choice for the mega slot, so there's good odds it continues to do so. Garchomp. Another victim of the game trying to convince you that mixed sets are good, Garchomp eats a sizable increase to special attack as a physical attacker. This does let you drop Draco Meteor as a physical attacker, but who knows if that's viable in ZA. Ground Dragon is a very good offensive typing, and Garchomp is one of those Pokemon that falls into the category of Old Faithful being a solid choice for most occasions. Expect to see Garchomp occasionally in the early metagame, often once people figure out how to deal with Gardevoir, and then rarely as more optimized megas come to prominence. Lucario. God, I hate Lucario. Let me take a moment to call out everyone that names their Lucario either Lucas or Luca and request that you change it up this game because I'm sick of seeing it. Losing adaptability hurts Lucario pretty bad, especially as another mega that wants you to run a mix set. With a large amount of fire megas running around, Lucario will be hard-pressed to find safe fights, but as a steel attacker, it'll probably fare well enough in the early metagame. Abomasnow, a veteran of the Weather Wars, now out of its element in the abilityless ZA. Abomasnow carries the awful defensive typing of Grass Ice, leaving it preyed on by a majority of opponents. As one of the slowest megas out there, it is also waiting to see how much speed matters in the new format. To make matters worse for Abomasnow, its mega favors mixed attacking. Beedrill. If you open the dictionary, you find the entry for Glass Cannon. Next to it, you will see a picture of Mega Beedrill. Losing adaptability hurts Beedrill, but not as much as Beedrill can hurt you if you let it land more than a single hit. For the record, I adore Beedrill, and if you want to use this thing online, you need to do it early while Gardevoir are plentiful, and players do not know what the Protect button does. Pidgeot. No more infinite hurricane spam for you. What a shame. It moves fast and it hits hard, so that's something, but that gimmick was really its whole deal. Slowbro. Shell Armor is a negligible loss for Slowbro, and with Regenerator being out of the game, Mega Slowbro actually improves upon Slowbro for once. There is, however, another Water Psychic Mega likely to outclass it completely. Steelix. Steelix really appreciates abilities being gone, because Sandforce wasn't a particularly strong one, and it was left behind in favor of more immediately offensive megas. A Titan rival Aggron, Steelix's additional ground typing gives it more offensive options, but lessens its defensive capability somewhat in comparison. As a steel attacker, it'll likely do well in the early metagame, since it can also threaten fire types that would otherwise check it. However, it faces steep competition from another steel and ground mega that's not nearly as slow. Sceptile. Oh no, you're no longer immune to a type that you quad resisted anyway. Grass Dragon isn't a fantastic typing, but it hits hard enough to hold its own. With a mixed friendly spread, dropping a Leaf Storm and then hitting with physical may be an effective strategy. The commonality of megas that hit grass super effectively should be noted. Swampert. My man Bulk Biceps back again for another round. Good to see you, homie. Swift Swim was needed in the old battle system, but perhaps in this one it's not so important. Water Ground is a fantastic typing that only fears grass, but it does really fear grass. Sableye, a defensive mega that's lost an immunity to non-damaging moves. Sableye is unlikely to shine in ZA, but I would be remiss to count it out. It's only weak to Fairy and may still perform defensive duties pretty well. Sharpedo. No speed boost pre-mega and no strong jaw after means Sharpedo is kind of just a worse Gyarados in just about every way. Camerupt. Sheer Force will be sorely missed, as Camerupt is not the sturdiest bulky mega out there, and it really liked the extra punch. I can't see Camerupt doing very well due to not hitting quite hard enough and not tanking quite well enough. It's a really great generalist surrounded by more optimized threats. Altaria. Another Pixelate loss. Altaria is not as optimized toward either side of the offensive spectrum as other dragons or fairies, and it leaves a lot to be desired. It's a dragon that's immune to dragon, which is neat, but it's not enough to patch up other shortcomings. Glalie. Glalie's claim to fame was Refrigerate Explosion, and that doesn't exist anymore. Overall, Glalie is a generalist ice type, which can pretty much be synonymized with dead weight, which is very unfortunate because I like Mega Glalie a lot. Salamence. Salamence may have lost Airlate, and that's sad, but it has more than enough tools to remain a threat. Its flying damage is worse for wear, but with stats like these, it's easy to see why Roaring Moon looks more like Mega Salamence than it does regular Salamence. It may, however, be completely outclassed by a new Dragon Flying Mega. Metagross. Megagross was formerly one of the premier threats amongst all megas, and honestly, it kind of still is. It loses out on Tough Claws, but it has great stats, good moves, solid typing. Metagross was enough of a threat in its base form, and it only gets more threatening when made tankier, but also fast. Latias. Arguably not as good as running Soldew instead. The loss of Levitate is unfortunate, but not terrible. With respectable added bulk and some extra punch on top, if it were ever legal, Mega Latias would be a solid pick. Latios, also arguably not as good as running Soldew instead, the loss of Levitate is still unfortunate. A veritable luster-purging machine, Latios is unlikely to ever be legal in online play, but it would be a very threatening mixed attacker if it were. Rayquaza. Banned from Ubers for being too strong, Mega Recray will almost assuredly never be legal. Without Delta Stream, it's almost a fair Pokemon, but Dragon Ascent does tend to punch holes in anything that doesn't resist it. Lopunny. The Joker's signature ace, losing Scrappy, did not do Lopunny any favors. It's not incapable of hitting ghosts, but now it actually needs to make sure it can. Honestly, Lopunny isn't bad. Nobody uses it because it's good, but at least it's actually kind of good. It's fast, hits hard, normally boasts Fake Out, don't think that matters in ZA. If it doesn't, opens up another slot for smacking ghost types. Gallade. Losing almost nothing with Inner Focus, Gallade is a formidable physical attacker with exceptional coverage options. No longer having access to Sharpness in its base form, the extra 40 attack from the Mega makes up for it nicely. Audino. Nobody is out here using Audino. Sorry to say it, it's not good. It's bulky, but doesn't really do anything. Maybe ZA gives us some help here, hopefully, possibly, probably not. Normal Fairy is, I guess, interesting, but it doesn't do much at all. Diancie. Another legendary that is unlikely to ever be legal, Diancie loses Magic Bounce, making it susceptible to non-damaging moves. Diamond Storm is pretty nice, and Fairy and Rock are both good offensive types. The thing still manages to be decently bulky even after taking a lot of losses to defense with Mega Evolution. From this point onward, everything is in pure speculation territory. There is very little data to go off of, and not all of it is reputable. In case it wasn't obvious, there are ZA spoilers ahead, including released Megas, leaked Megas that I have enough faith in to talk about. I don't have any information on ZA that anybody else does not already have access to. The numbers I'm working with are fuzzy, not exact, and probably incorrect. Dragonite. Dragonite is typically known for wanting its multiscale to enable it to shock and awe its way through the opposition. It has the stats to bulk its way through just about anything that's not ice at least once, and the attack to make sure it puts a crater in whatever it's looking at. With 100 points to burn with the Mega Evolution and the fact that it's Kanto's pseudo-legend, Dragonite is unlikely to get a bad Mega spread. I'm going to estimate a bump in attack and speed with small additions to the rest. It's in direct competition with Salamence as a Dragon Flying Mega, so I expect a similar build but power crept because it's Pokemon. If the power creep is particularly bad, they will optimize more investment into attacker speed and use special attack as a dump stat. Victreebel. I love how stupid this thing looks. As is customary, a fat Pokemon is probably a bulky Pokemon, and I would guess that spitting out poison is more special than physical. Given it moves by hopping its large sack self around, I imagine it also gets slower. I can't see this thing being particularly good or even better than Venusaur. Hawlucha. Fighting and Flying is a fairly unique typing that hits a lot for at least neutral damage. There's not a lot of threat to flying types amongst the Megas due to a lack of good rock, electric, and ice type attackers. The design doesn't imply any one stat is focused on, so it's probably a pretty even split, slightly favoring attack because of power creep, and probably lacking much of a speed increase. Malamar. Malamar's workout routine at the library does not imply much of a physical investment. In fact, I would not be surprised if those stats fell slightly. It likely functions as a slower Alakazam with more status options. A dark attacker is relatively unique, with T-Tar and Houndoom not being super great, but Malamar is unlikely to be much better. A lack of Contrary affects a special Malamar much less than a physical one, so we'll have to see how this new battle system works out, but it's not looking great. Chestnut, a defensively unfortunate typing to be rocking as a bulkier Mega. This thing's not going to be a star, but you also won't even have a chance to use or see it until like 3 to 4 ranked seasons in, so you don't really even need to worry about it until Season 4. Bulletproof was kind of a meme ability more than anything else. Delphox. Another Pokemon you don't need to worry about because it's a ranked reward. Delphox strikes me as a fast, hard hitter with minimal defense investment. Fire Psychic is not a good defensive typing, but it's pretty alright offensively. Delphox didn't have any super good abilities to lose, so it's doing fine there. Greninja. I think Greninja is the first ranked reward we'll see. It may have been Delphox, I'm unsure. Greninja is likely to be a faster, harder hitting alternative to Gyarados, probably functioning as a fast, frail mixed attacker. Either way, you won't be seeing it in the early metagame, so don't worry about it too much. Raichu. Oh look, they're themed after letters. Let's waste one of our most marketable designs by theming it on an out-of-canon product. Were Xerneas and Yveltal being letters not enough for you, or... Anyway, Raichu will be a pure electric mega in both cases, fast, frail, one tuned to physical and one tuned to special. If I had to guess, the special one will be better because it's the one that looks more like Pikachu, and marketing will always trump game design because we live in hell. Clefable. Having lost the defensive utility provided by abilities, Clefable is unlikely to perform super well in ZA, but might do really well in Champions. I expect it will function in ZA as a slow, bulky offensive fairy. Starmie. Jort's Starmie is the one I am most excited for in ZA. Starmie does actually have Bolt Beam coverage, meaning there's nothing Starmie can't hit for at least neutral damage. It's already usable on its own, so even with completely equal increases across the board, it would benefit a lot. However, if Starmie were to say, I don't know, be the mega of a character whose entire gimmick is dancing, it probably picks up a bit of extra speed, and it's probably taken from a dump stat. Meganium. Meganium does not have a single notable feature in my mind. I do not recall Meganium ever doing anything ever. I don't know many people that even like this line, but maybe ZA gives it a shot. It's very balanced. Maybe it stays that way. Glalie was as balanced as it gets, and didn't stay that well. No, I guess it did. I don't guess it stayed balanced. If Meganium stays pure grass, it's not going to be very good. Feraligatr. I don't know if you've seen this one yet. It's very divisive. You either like it or hate it. I think it's dumb as hell, but in a kind of good way. I kind of like how dumb it is. Reportedly, supposedly, quite possibly, Feraligatr will become Water Dragon. If that is true, that is an exceptional typing. Skarmory. Skarmory is already a serviceable Pokemon as is, so any benefit at this point is great. It has a very optimized spread with special attack receiving very little investment, which feels uncommon for such a relatively early generation Pokemon. The design makes it look very sleek, so I imagine it gets much faster. Frostlats. Frostlats is an offensive Glalie with added Ghost, which is overall a nice improvement. I expect a fast, frail mixed attacker again. Emboar. Emboar has the potential to go either very, very bulky or hit very, very hard. I don't see a world in which its speed gets better. It may outclass Blaziken with its higher HP and lower speed investment. Excadrill. Excadrill has been reliant on abilities historically, but certainly has a serviceable stat spread. I imagine that the Mega patches up lackluster defenses and boosts its speed, potentially outperforming Steelix in every way but physical defense. Scolipede. Another Pokemon sorely missing its abilities, Scolipede is one of the more effective bugs in the game. I fear it may entirely invalidate Beedrill due to having a kind of real stat spread, as opposed to Beedrill's comical Viridian Forest one. Scrafty. Scrafty without Intimidate is not quite as, well, intimidating, but it does have very nice bulk. I could see it getting slower in order to bulk even harder. It would be a decent offensive tank, but I feel like that may be a bit too optimized and well-performing to hope for. Electros. Losing Levitate does Electros absolutely no favors, as it actually needs to worry about ground types. To go along with the theme of electric megas being less than stellar, it's probably a mixed attacker again. Chandelure. You should start running now. Chandelure is already a nuclear offensive threat, and making it any faster is devastating to the ecosystem, the opposition, the trout population, the economy, the job market, anything you can think of. The fact that it has no ability is a small mercy on us that champions will not be receiving. Expect to see a lot of this thing. Pyroar. I don't know how to tell you this, Lysander, but I think you should have stuck with the Gyarados. Normal does you very few favors, and it seems unlikely you can outfire things like Charizard and Chandelure. Dragalge. I hope Dragalge is good. I've never been able to do well with it, but I do really like it. Dragon Poison is a cool typing that isn't particularly great, but it does get some pretty nice move options. Its low speed leads me to believe it will get even slower, and I'm assuming it gets some points wasted in attack, but it might be a very powerful special attacker. Barbaracle. Once upon a time, there was an ugly Barnacle. He was so ugly that everyone died. The end. I adore this thing. It's so hideous, it's so unlovable, it reminds me of a younger me. I'm led to believe that our dear Barbaracle becomes rock fighting, and the fact that Barbaracle is heavily featured in trailer footage makes me believe that that's likely to be true. Hopefully a rock attacker faster than T-Tar and bulkier than Aerodactyl. The addition of fighting to smack steals is always nice, and having guaranteed water coverage is never a bad thing. Drampa. Angry Grandpa is back, and it's back. Extra bulk would be appreciated, and I foresee a future as a slow, heavy hitter. Normal Dragon's not a horrible typing, it hits a lot for at least neutral. Not Steel, though, and Steel's pretty important. Phalanx. Voltron McMegazord is here, and he's probably getting 20s across the board, because no retreat exists, and anything more optimal than that could have dire consequences. With buffs being temporary in ZA, this thing might not snowball quite as hard as I expect it will in Champions. Zygarde. Now, if you thought that the Mega bonus stats would be applied to Zygarde Complete spread, think again, because abilities don't exist, thus there is no Power Construct, thus there is no Zygarde Complete. Dragon Ground is still an excellent type, and coming off of a stat pool like Zygarde's, it's comparable to Giga Garchomp. This thing will not be legal to use online, but it will probably be busted enough to rival Deer Recray through less immediate offense, but more powerful staying power. In another show of just unmatched competence, a couple Pokemon with, data for a Megastone happened to be in the pre-release update data for the game. Those Pokemon, all legendaries, will probably all be very good. I don't think I really need to talk about them too much because they're already good as is, so they're just gonna get more gooder. I will, however, touch on Eternal Floette, which I'm just gonna go out there and gamble that it gets all 100 extra points in special attack, because I want that to be a thing, just because I think it would be funny for something to hit harder than Deoxys attack, which, do I think that that's likely to happen? Not really. Has anything similar happened before? Regieleki does exist, so it could happen. The top 15 predicted megas in ranked play. These, in no particular order, are things I think you will see often and should begin thinking of how you're going to deal with. Charizard X. Beats Scizor, threatens well-performing steals, threatens dragons but is comparatively slow, not weak to fairy, mixed offense. Pretty big threat. Gengar. Hits a high amount of Psychic Megas hard as well as fairies. Scizor. Only weak to fire, good into fairy and psychics, resists dragon. Pretty bulky. Gardevoir. Popularity over effectiveness, dunks on dragons and poisons if it can kill them before crumpling to its low physical defense. Kind of slow for a mega. Garchomp. It's very hard, good versus steel, bulky enough to take a hit and kill in return, comparatively slow, allergic to ice. Swampert, bulky, hits hard, only fears grass, good in steel, a starter so we might not even get it. Salamence, hits decently hard, bulky enough, faster than anything not notably fast itself, mixed offense, also allergic to ice, possibly outclassed by Dragonite. Metagross, not bad at anything, steel attacker, good into both fairy and poison. Dragonite, likely to be a better Salamence, Do you remember Kanto? The Pokemon Company remembers Kanto. They also want you to remember Kanto and purchase things related to Kanto. Starmie, probably fast, has Bolt Beam coverage, one of the largest threats to Dragon we're likely to see in the metagame. Relegator, Water Dragon is a very good typing. Bulky attacker, kinda slow. Frostlass, likely the premier anti-dragon pick that can also smack the plentiful psychics. Embor, potentially a bulky hard hitter that dunks on steals and other plentiful fire-weak megas, notably slow. Excadrill, steel and ground offense that greatly outperforms Steelix in theory. Chandelure, a nuclear bomb waiting to kill anything that looks at it funny. If you see a Chandelure, you need to have your protect button ready. You need to hit the protect button or you are going to die. Those are my thoughts on the upcoming ZA release. As soon as we actually get confirmed stats out, I would love to compare them to my predicted stats, which aren't actually in this version of the video because this is the short one. You know what? I'll write them down for you, just for funsies, to see how good I did. Thank you for watching, listening, just looking at the pretty picture. I don't really care. Thanks for coming by. I'll see you when the game comes out. I'm going to be playing it, like, non-stop for a while, like, a lot. I'm going to get the first hour out, like, right away, and then after that, I'm probably going to do probably hour chunks after that, if I had to guess. See you then. Bye.